the movie industry to capitalize on what's happening around the world.
That's right, and you know Bollywood is coming to Hollywood too. I mean, that's cross-marketing is going on. And one of the other things that they're doing is they're actually dubbing them in some of the countries where English is not known. In their language, they can see Mission Impossible. Can you imagine Mission Impossible in Hindi?
Have you ever watched a dubbed movie? It's sometimes funny to watch just on its own because you're so used to characters with their voices. And when you hear a different voice, it can be an entertaining experience. But
let me tell you, it's better than subtitles. At least your eyes are actually on the action. But anyway, it's very interesting to see. And of course, you also know that so many of these studios, in order to make sure that they're popular in a certain country, they'll actually go and shoot there. Just like Indian companies used to come around and shoot it here in America.
That's how Switzerland got so popular.
That's right.
Folks, if you watched our show, then you might remember Savita Bhabhi. Well, Savita Bhabhi, for those of you who don't know, is a cartoon character in India. She's the first cartoon porn character in India, and people objected to the fact that she was a married woman, promiscuous cartoon character, and, you know, she was a porn star, a legitimate porn star in India, and of course, it was a matter of time. You know, she had a huge following. She had 30,000 email subscribers and over 20,000 visitors a day to her website. She was a fictional character, folks. This was just a cartoon character, but her creator was very popular, and she had for a while her own little comic strip going.
That's right.
And of course the government and some of these media outlets were offended, and they finally shut her down. They basically killed her, although, you know, people are trying to bring her back. Yes. They're basically saying she's not dead.
They can do it from America, from Japan, from almost any country. Why does it have to be from India?
Well, I think what made this unique was the fact that this was of Indian origin, marketed to the Indian people. And of course, people are saying she's not really dead. She's just in exile because internet experts are trying to change the proxy of the website so that she can come back to life and once again live again. But you know, the funny part of this is part of a new genre that they're calling Comic Sutra.
Not Kama Sutra. No. This is Comic Sutra. And
I just think, you know, okay, fine. Many of us can object to this concept of an Indian cartoon character who represents the Indian married female being promiscuous. On the other hand, it's just a developer having fun, you know? Is it such a big deal?
Is that the profile? I mean, is it for real that that's what happens?
No, I mean, basically she's just a promiscuous character who has affairs, you know, that's the premise of her character. And the Indian audience, I guess, is not quite ready to embrace that role, but she's coming back. She will live again.
That thing happens all over the world. But there was something about that in a sari that actually attracts you. I don't think it has anything to do with the rest of it, because the rest of it is common almost everywhere. You know.
Right, but you know, she was a traditional sari clad with a sindoor in her mang, so yeah, she was very much typical and not so typical per the Indian persona.
So how do I do a serious story now?
You're going to have to struggle with
I'm serious. There is just so much going on in the world. And then we're talking about Savita Bhabhi. Listen to this, folks. Women are actually, by law, going to get on the boards of the corporation. Do you know that France has passed a legislation that will require all companies to raise the proportion of female directors to 40% by the end of this decade? In Spain, 40% by 2015. Talk about Norway. That has had for a decade a rule that says 40% of the board of directors have to be women. Now, all of a sudden, everybody has realized, you know, of course, it always helps that there are more college graduates that are women than men. And today, there are more of them on the college campuses, so the women are coming out. So now, only thing they want is you got to now prove it to them that you tried to get a board of directors of women and you were unsuccessful. And they need to get reasons for it. Otherwise, it's a case of discrimination.
I think for a while, the European climate around women being in those positions has been a little bit behind the U.S. And in an effort to be more equal, I think they have enacted in some cases these sort of quotas if you will. And if you remember in the news, France got some really negative press for not having women in these upper echelon positions and in these director level positions. So I think that phenomenon is now taking place in Europe. It took place in the United States probably about 10 years before it became a phenomenon there.
Well, wait a second. United States is way behind. In Norway, they have 35% of the board members women. In Sweden, it's 25%. In France, it's only 20%. Britain is 16%. Germany is 16%. United States is 16% also. Spain is 11%. China is 9%. Brazil is 7%. India is 5%. And Russia is 5%. So all of these countries have to really come up and make sure they promote their women.
This is a story I couldn't believe, but it must be true because it was in the Washington Post. Folks, if you're trying to get...
Not necessarily, but that's okay.
If you're trying to get funding for your new startup or your new venture, you may have to be more than you thought as far as being creative. Basically, there's a few companies out there that have tried a brand new strategy for gaining attention from some of these venture capitalists. You know what it is?
What?
It's rap videos on sites like YouTube. Rap videos. Imagine like you're very, plain Jane white collar person trying to get money from a very serious place, these venture capitalists, in the form of a rap video.
So you mean to say they've gone from elevator pitch to
exactly.
rapping pitch?
They're basically repackaged their elevator pitch in the form of a rap video, and it has found success. Folks, Mike Hagan, who started undrip.com, he tried to get some venture funding, and he was able to do this by creating a rap video. And he actually got money. He got money from Ludlow Ventures in Detroit, who responded with a video. That's the funny part. So it's like trading videos. You ask for money in the form of a rap video. And in this case, Ludlow Ventures responded using the same beat and the same music to the request for funding, and basically said yes, they would come back and fund this new company. And this is not the first time it's been done. And this is the part I thought, well, okay, maybe it's one item. But no, Jawbone. Many of you use Jawbone. It's that Bluetooth device for your headset. They also did something like this. They did... They basically did the same thing. They had a little catchy song with some snarky lyrics, and they put it out there, and that's how they got funding. So I think what's happening now is to separate yourself from the crowd, from the pack, you have to try to be creative. And if you're creative enough to attempt something like this, then chances are those venture capitalists are going to recognize that in and of itself as being unique, and maybe they'll come after you and say, okay, these guys are ones that we want to spend money on because clearly they're creative.
Take a look at this picture. Isn't that the most beautiful picture you've ever seen of frugal science? This is called frugal science. Look at her. She's not even wearing shoes. I mean, that is called real frugal. But, in the Western world, whenever you do R&D, it's like unlimited budget. They're always finding things, and it costs a lot of money. Everybody knows Bell Labs used to spend a ton of money. So is IBM and other companies. But now the emerging countries, the Asians and Russians and the others, they all are saying they will come out with frugal science. Yeah, maybe they may not hit a home run every time, but the singles and the doubles count too. And you remember a few weeks ago you were telling me these countries are getting R&D, not America as much. Well, these American R&D people are also going to these Asian and other countries, and they also want to try their frugal science.
So necessity is the mother of invention. So sometimes when you're in these kinds of places, you become innovative because you have scarcity of resources, scarcity of funds, and you have to do with what you have.
They also want the same thing for their population. They also want to be number one in the world. One of the companies up in China, folks, they are the most frugal, and they have the biggest business of genome sciences. If you want a genome history of yourself, they call it ancestors, what did they give you? Well, it costs you somewhere around $5,000. But in China, $200. You can get it, If it's accurate, I don't know, but at least that's what they're selling it for. Frugal science. It also started with, by the way, Bill Gates. Bill Gates is one person who wanted to look at the problem, and he didn't want the solution to be expensive. He wanted the solution to be cheap. And he got it. In fact, Bill Gates' money goes a long ways almost in every country.
Well, I think more good news for countries like India and China, who have a lot of this labor force that is